Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. Welcome. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. We are continuing with this very, I would say, I don't want to overuse the word profound, but this letter to Niike. He's obviously talking, to a student, a good student, a dedicated student of his, educated by no other than Nico. So this letter, though, really speaks to the Nichiren's day, in that there are many, or a handful of very strong influences in the country, and therefore in the culture, right? A lot of people practicing erroneous teachings, but they have been for centuries at this point in Japan. So very hard to break that, really, that habit, that entrained, endemic and inculcated belief system. It's in everything the populace does, even all the way up to the elite, the rulers and the scholar class and all of that. They've bought into the traditions without, for I would say, for more than just the reasons of traditions, because the traditions hold power on these on the leadership, certainly, because it enables them to have personal power. It enables them to manipulate others of their own ranks in other families, other territories, as well as the population, the farmers, the merchants, the everyday people of Japan. It's a very authoritarian state, as I've said many times, so people are wont to do what they're told. And if you have a consistent story as the person responsible for telling people what to do, then it gives you power. So they're very, very stingy about relinquishing that power, right? But here's a flip side of that, is that if you were to practice anything, whether you're a shoe cobbler or you're raising crops, or you're a Buddhist trying to practice Shakyamuni's exact teachings and his culminating teachings, you can do those things. But social pressures come into play, right? If you're someone of strong conviction, and you know that you know how to raise corn, and you know that corn is done best this way through your own experimentation. People always tell you, well, you plant corn at this time of year, at this month, when the rain is like this, and that's when you plant it, and you don't plant anything else here. This is your cornfield. But through your own experimentation, or through some other document you found from hundreds of years ago, there's a suggestion that corn does a lot better if you vary the crops in the field throughout the year, and if you can actually get different yields from your corn depending on different times that you do it, so on and so forth, how you treat the seeds, and you get into it. You want to be the best corn farmer, right? It speaks to your living. So you find through experimentation after several years that you don't do what everyone else does. You plant differently, and you plant varied crops, and the soil becomes more fertile, and you get the best corn in the land. Even though you've proven it to yourself, certainly, and at the market, when you bring your corn to market, and it makes everybody else's look like trash, or food for the animals. several things will happen. People will become very jealous of you. They will say, well, he's, you can't eat his corn. Yeah, it looks better, it tastes better, and all of that, and it's larger and a better color, but that's because of witchcraft. And so you demonize him, and you say, you can't trust that corn. Look, nobody else's corn looks like that. You shouldn't eat that corn. Right? That's just, this is human avarice and competitive and just stupidity. But it happens with everything, doesn't it? So we see a lot of that as Nichiren talks about the Lotus Sutra. But there's another more insipid thing that happens. That's an obvious one. It's very childish and stupid, but to this day that kind of thing happens. We laughingly call it competition, but it's really just jealousy and just stupidity. But here's the other thing. Let's say you've got your corn growing and it's great, and other people are taking note, and they're not want to destroy you, they're wanting to learn from you. They're saying, I think I like the way you grow your corn, and I'm not going to believe all that other claptrap from these other farmers. I'd like to grow my own corn the way you grow your corn. Will you teach me? Well, that's great, right? So you start teaching these people, and they come back to you, and they grow corn, and you go see how they're doing, and they're not doing exactly what you showed them how to do. And you go, well, why are you doing that? I told you should do this. And they say, yeah, but, Bob told me, we just don't do that. That's not, traditionally, that's not the way we do it. So I'm going to do it this way. But thank you. I understand everything you're telling me. But I'm going to do a little different. I'll do some of what you told me. I won't tell anyone. But as far as these major things, I'm just going to, because Bob, he's my neighbor. And, Bob has an ear with the farm control people, and he can cause me a lot of trouble. So I'm just going to do what Bob tells. But you're right. I think you're right. Influences, right? Or maybe it's no, I'm doing everything you told me, but my wife, she won't even sleep with me now. She thinks I'm following the devil because I'm following you. So I'm going to continue to learn from you and everything and take notes and stuff, but I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way, because my wife. Nichiren talks about this all the time. Sometimes the most devastating influences come from those who are closest to us. And those are huge obstacles. We're human beings like immediate gratification. And we like to feel accepted. And we these are all foibles of attachment, right? And so it can become a serious obstacle to our personal growth. Well, this is no less true of our Buddhist practice. So evidently, just from what we've read so far in parts 1 and 2 of this letter, Nichiren's really trying to make a point with Niike here, that you can't just be a student of Lotus Sutra Buddhism and claim to understand Shakyamuni's teachings if after you learn all of this and chant, you chant Amida Butsu's name, or you let the influences of your fellow samurai cower you into doing what they do. You can't secretly practice in your room and your home and then go join these great practicing sessions of these erroneous views with your buddies. You can't do that. There's only one way to do this, or you don't do this. In fact, worse, if you're that much of a scholar and you know that this is the way to do it and you don't do it, now you're slandering it because you know better. It's one thing to be ignorant. It's another thing to willfully go against. That's really terrible. So, that is the kind of admonition we're reading about in this letter. And Nichiren's not done. So he's going to talk about these other monks of these other temples, these other erroneous views, the Mahavarachana, the true word, Nembutsu, all of that. So we're going to hear more about that. But he talks about it a little differently here because of the nature of the person he's talking to. And so I think there's still a great deal for us to get from this letter. So all of that is to preface continuing with letter to Niike. And we left off with how much more would this be so in the case of the monks today who are inferior to them. So they just talked about the Lotus Sutra and those who do not follow the Lotus Sutra. So fragrantly do these priests or these monks of Kenshoji and Engakuji temples break the code of ceremonies and the precepts that they seem like a mountain that has collapsed into rubble. Their wanton behavior is like that of monkeys. So, again, to clarify, Nichiren assails the scholarship of these other schools quite often. We've read several things about that. But you notice here he's talking about their behavior, because I think he's making quite a point of the fact that one of the fallacies that these other erroneous schools are following is this ego, this political advantage or financial advantage, this pompous kind of teaching in this way makes me important, rather than the teaching being important and clear. The teachings are used as a tool of avarice and position and power. And so he's really attacking them for this. And this is important because Niike is one of them. He's one of in other words, he's an official in the Kamakura government. So he's not just some other samurai or some other, elite. He's in the seat of government. He's one of the officials. So Nichiren really needs to point out that not only are your fellow officers and rulers and elite wrong in what they're ascribing to Buddhism, because it's not. But look at their egos. Look at the way they manipulate one another, including you, hint, hint, right? Look at what's going on personally and how that's being fed by their erroneous views. That's a very powerful argument for Nichiren to have with this particular person, right? Their wanton behavior is like that of monkeys. It is utterly futile to look for salvation in their future life by giving alms to such monks. In other words, don't look to attaining enlightenment, awakening, Buddhahood in any way by supporting these people. It's not going to help. The benevolent deities who lend their protection have no doubt abandoned our land. In other words, any positive influence coming from these people is long disappeared. There's nothing, even an ignorant person who means well and does the best they can with what they know has some value. There's some goodness, quote unquote, there. But when somebody becomes a manipulator and knowingly promotes false views, any goodness, any kind of shared opportunity there is completely defiled. It's gone, right? Long ago, the heavenly deities and benevolent deities, bodhisattvas and voice hearers, pledged in a single voice in the presence of Shakyamuni that If a land hostile to the Lotus Sutra should exist, they would appear in the form of frost, hail, and in the 6th month to drive the land into famine, or turn into insects and devour the 5 kinds of grain, or cause droughts or floods to ruin the fields and farms, or become gales and sweep the people off to their death, or to transform themselves into demons and cause suffering for the people. So all of that is very flowery, but you get the gist. Is that if you crap on any goodness, any positive, any life affirming, certainly if you go against the Lotus Sutra, not just ignorant of it, but go against it, what you're doing is you're burning your opportunity. You're taking away any chance for rehabilitation, for support, for opportunity, right? And that comes in many forms. You know, when you put out negativity, negative energy, your life will manifest that negativity in various ways. And that's what that means. It's not like these deities just, sprout wings and float away. It's not magical. It may sound that way, but what this means is that of the opportunities that these cosmic forces, right? Think of it again. Buddhism is mental. So if you're negative all the time, then even your ability to think about opportunities diminishes, and your brain and your mind become mired with justifications for that negativity. And the same is true of the nation, of a family, of a county, of a country, right? It just extrapolates. So, great Bodhisattva Hachiman was among those present. Does he not fear breaking the oath made at Eagle Peak? Should he break his promise, he would surely be doomed to hell of incessant suffering, which, as we know, is life, right? A fearful, terrible thing to contemplate. Until the envoy of the Buddha actually appeared in the world to propagate the Lotus Sutra, the rulers of the land were not hostile to it, for they revered all the sutras equally, right? In their ignorance of what is superior and what is provisional, what is the proper order of the teachings, right? It's like if you don't know anything about calculus versus geometry or addition and subtraction or trigonometry or statistics or name any kind of number logic, you would say, well, all the maths are good, and you wouldn't be wrong. But once you learn the proper order of mathematics and how they build on each other and how certain concepts are just provisional, and once you understand more deeply the concepts of math, those are just, you eschew them because they're not useful anymore. That doesn't appear to you in your mind until you study, right? Once you study and you know what is superior and what is inferior, what is provisional, stepping stone teachings, and what is essential, then if you're a scholar and you know that, then you don't go around saying, well, yeah, I mean, that's just as good as this. No, you know better, right? So until, like the corn, until somebody comes along and can show you, no, this is the best way to grow corn, this is the ultimate teaching, those are just, steps along the way, then nobody's upset. See, we're dealing with ego here. So, as he says, until an envoy of the Buddha actually appears in the world, they're all just happily practicing whatever works for them, right? Quote unquote. But then once the envoy shows up, in this case Bodhisattva Nichiren, who's correctly displaying the proper order of the teachings, which are superior, which are inferior, which are essential, which are provisional. Now people who've grown into these habits are like, who the hell are you? Right? We've talked about this. So this is why this is happening now, and he's explaining this to Niike. Now that I'm spreading the Lotus Sutra as the Buddha's envoy, here we go, however, everyone from the ruler on down to the common people has become a slanderer of the correct teaching. Oh, a little different tack that he's taken in the past. In the past he said, from the ruler on down, people hate me. Right, we understand the behavior, but what he's saying here is that because they do that, their behavior posits them as enemies of the Buddha because they're slandering the correct teaching. He's saying, look, this is the way you grow corn, and they're all saying, you know, screw you, we're going to grow corn however we like. Well, you can do that, but now you know that you're going against the proper way to do it. You no longer can claim to be ignorant and happy in what you do. You now know better. So that changes the complexion, the complexities, and the behaviors, right? So far, Hachiman has done everything possible to prevent hostility toward the Lotus Sutra from developing among the people of this country, as reluctant to abandon them as parents would be to abandon an only child, even if it were unfilial. And so Hachiman is a great conceptualization of Japan's kind of spiritual identity, if you will. Great warrior from the past. And they've turned him into this bodhisattva, this spirit, cultural spirit of the Japanese people, right? And just like any other personification, it's a quality of each person in the country, right? It's still about the mind. It's their attitude. I'm a Japanese. This is what it means to be a Japanese, right? And so far, their pride in place, their identity, has kind of protected them from severe backlash. But now that they know better, now that they know the Lotus Sutra, now that Nichiren is here providing them the teaching and the clarity, now even their identity as Japanese won't protect them from falling into lesser mental states, more self-imposed sufferings, right? Because of their avarice, their mistaken beliefs in life, in the nature of life. Do you see how this breaks down? But now, in fear of breaking the pledge they make at Eagle Peak, he has turned down his shrine and ascended to heaven. In other words, even your identity as Japanese won't help you now. That's just a bauble, an obstacle, actually. Even so, should there be a votary of the Lotus Sutra who would give his body and life for it, Hachiman would dwell upon his head. But since both the Sun Goddess and great Bodhisattva Hachiman have gone, how could the other deities remain in their shrines? Even if they did or did not wish to leave, how could they stay another day if I reproached them for not keeping their promise they made at Eagle Peak? A person may be a thief, but as long as no one knows, he can live wherever he wishes. But when denounced as a thief by someone who knows him, he is forced to leave his dwelling against his will. In the same way, because I know of their vow, the deities are compelled to abandon their shrines. Contrary to popular belief, this country has become inhabited by evil demons. How pitiful. So he's actually pointing out another reason why everyone hates him, because they know he's right. And because he's right, they all mumble around. So their positive reinforcement of their traditions and culture ain't working no more. And they're being invaded by the Mongols. They're having all kinds of civil war. So darned if Nichiren isn't accurate. Everything he says seems to be happening. Damn him. right? Many have spread the various teachings but put forth by the Buddha in his lifetime, right? Other sutras. But until now, no one, not even Tendai or Dengyo, has taught the most important of all. That is, as it should be, for that teaching spreads with the advent of Bodhisattva superior practices, Jogyo, which obviously Nichiren identifies as. During the first 500 years of the latter day of the law, once again a reminder that now is the time that this should be the only teaching that spreads throughout Jambudvipa. All those earlier teachings, they're fine and well to get to learn Buddhism, but they're not the Buddhism to be practiced. They are provisional. Sorry, got something in my eye. Right, we know this now. It won't go away. No matter what, always keep your strong mind of conviction in the Lotus Sutra steadfast. So once again, reminding Niike, don't be swayed, even, by close associates and so forth. You're in a place of a lot of influences. You may have to be quiet in some moments, but don't lose your strong determination for your Buddhahood, for Myoho Renge-kyo. Then, at the last moment of your life, you will be welcomed by 1,000 Buddhas who will take you swiftly to the Pure Land of Eagle Peak, where you will experience boundless joy of the law. If your strong mind and conviction weakens, and you do not attain Buddhahood in this lifetime, do not reproach me. If you do, you will be like the sick man who refuses the good medicine his physicians prescribes and take poison instead. He does not recover, but it never occurs to him that it is his fault, and he blames the physician. Right? Resolute mind and conviction in this sutra means that you will surely attain Buddhahood if you are true to the entirety of the Lotus Sutra, adhering exactly to its teachings without adding any of your own ideas or following the arbitrary interpretations of others. Right? There's those influences. Yeah, you can grow corn that way, but I'm going to do this. No. This is the way. Don't deviate. But Bob says, screw Bob. Teach Bob. Bob, you're doing it wrong. This is the way. Right? Flip the script. But we're easily influenced, especially when we don't want to create waves or we want to be accepted. And even if that happens, Nichiren is saying, don't let it dissuade you. If people want to have wrong views, foul views, it may not be an opportune moment for you to shoju, to shakabuku, but you will shoju and shakabuku if you stay the course. Don't let those people influence you. Don't let those thoughts influence you. Follow strictly the Lotus Sutra, and you'll be fine. Becoming a Buddha is nothing extraordinary, Nichiren says. If you chant Namo Myoho Renge-kyo with your whole heart, again, he keeps hammering this home, you can chant, and you can read, and you can study. But if your dedication, your resolute mind isn't in it, if you don't chant with the idea that I'm now awakening my Buddhahood, then you're just playing. You're not sincerely transforming your mind. This is a transformation. Enlightenment isn't something that just you smear on toast. It's a mental, perceptive skill. You have to develop it. You have to strengthen it. That's why we chant every day. That's why we study every day, to gain those insights, to convince our human mind that it is more, that it can be more, and that it has always been there to be more, that we just need to, awaken it. But that takes effort. right? You will naturally become endowed with the Buddha's 32 features and 80 characteristics. As the sutra says, quote, hoping to make all persons equal to me without any distinction between us. These are Shakyamuni's words, right? Again, Shakyamuni's whole life of teachings was to teach others how to do exactly what he had done. The same thing. Without having to go through privations, starvations, all of the things that he went through in order to finally figure it out. Unfortunately, he had to teach it in steps because people weren't getting it at first. And today, we're so admired in distractions and other influences. We need something that's very straightforward and really, frankly, quite simple in order to do this. And it couldn't get simpler than chanting Myoho Renge Kyo. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. But you've got to have the conviction. Somebody needs help pushing their car to the gas station out of the intersection. If you go back there and you put your hand on the car and go, okay, I'm pushing, are you likely to aid in moving the car? No. You've got to hunker down, get in a good position, and oomph, push it. Well, that's the way we should chant our Daimoku. With that kind of ichinen, that kind of volition. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. I'm pushing my mind into Buddhahood. Right? You can readily become as noble a Buddha as Shakyamuni. A bird's egg contains nothing but liquid, yet by itself it develops into a beak, 2 eyes, and all the other parts, and the bird soars into the sky. We too are like the eggs of ignorance, which are pitiful things, but when nurtured by the chanting of Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, which is like the warmth of the mother bird, we develop the beak of the 32 features and the feathers of the 80 characteristics, and are free to soar into the sky of the true aspect of all phenomena and the reality of all things. Manifestations of life. This is what is meant by the sutra passage that says, in essence, quote, all people dwell in the shell of ignorance, lacking the beak of wisdom. The Buddha comes back to this world, the land where sages and common mortals live together, and the latter undergoing transmigration with differences and limitations. Just as a mother bird returns to her nest and cracks the shell of ignorance so that all people, like fledglings, may leave the nest and soar into the sky of the essential nature of phenomena and the reality of all things. And this is a really good description of Buddhahood. What is Buddhahood? I hear that question. Well, there it is. The reality, the fundamental reality of all phenomena, anything that exists, any phenomena, the fundamental aspect of all phenomena is this force, this life, this collection of energy, this momentum, right? Which only exists in time-space, this universe. Quote, knowledge without resolute mind describes those who are knowledgeable about the Buddhist doctrines but have no resolute mind or conviction. These people will never attain Buddhahood. Those of resolute mind and conviction without knowledge, I would argue they don't have conviction. So they have resolute mind in that they study, but they don't have knowledge. May lack knowledge, but have resolute mind and conviction. Those can attain Buddhahood. So let me reread that because I messed that up a little bit. I need to fix that translation. Anyway, knowledge without resolution, resolute mind, without conviction, right? You study, but you may not understand it all, but you study and you read all of the sutras and all of this, and you understand their relative differences, and you're a really good scholar, But, it's just not that interesting to you. It's interesting enough to study it, to know it, so you can impress your friends, but you don't really buy into all of that. That's no resolute conviction, right? Well, you'll never attain Buddhahood, obviously, right? You can know every part of a race car and be fascinated by use a micrometer to check all the tolerances and everything. You can be really smart about how the race car is made. But if it doesn't excite you to the point of getting in the driver's seat and flying down the quarter-mile strip at 200 miles an hour, you don't have any clue what it is that race car can do, will do, might do, what it's even for. For you, it's just an interesting bauble, right? But then he says, if you do raise that kind of conviction in now when you're working on that engine or know about it, you may not know all of the micrometer readings and all of the tolerances, but you have such a deep appreciation for those who do know that stuff so that they can make this car go 200 miles an hour in a quarter mile. I know 200 miles an hour is pretty high. Usually it's around 150 to 180 depending on the car and all that. But whatever it is, if you get in the driver's seat and you drive that thing, you will know that all of those things really matter, even if you don't understand the way they all work together. If you're not an engineer, when you hit that gas pedal and it doesn't blow up and you survive and you get to the other end, the thrill that you feel, that life state that you then know, that's amazing, even though you don't understand every working of the car, right? So what Nichiren is saying, have the conviction of that race driver whenever you study. And Buddhahood is assured. Even if you never get at the wheel, you will feel that exhilaration because of your conviction, your resolve. And Tammy over here, who knows every angstrom of the metallurgy and everything else of that car, will never feel what you feel. This is not merely my own opinion, Nichiren says. It is stated clearly in the Lotus Sutra. In the second volume, the Buddha says, quote, even if you, Shariputra, in the case of this sutra, were able to gain entrance through resolute mind and conviction alone, not because of any wisdom of your own, this shows that even Shariputra, unsurpassed in his wisdom, was able to attain Buddhahood only by embracing and firmly believing in this sutra, and that his wisdom alone did not enable him to become a Buddha. If Shariputra could not attain Buddhahood even through his wisdom, how can we ordinary people with limited knowledge of the doctrines dare to dream that we may attain Buddhahood when we do not even have a resolute mind or conviction? The Buddha explains that people in the latter age will be arrogant, though their knowledge of the doctrines is trifling, and will show disrespect to the monks, neglect the law, and thereby fall into the evil paths. If one truly understands the Buddhist teachings, one should show that this in one's respect for the monks, reverence for the law, and offerings to the Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha is not among us now, so you must respect the teacher with enlightened wisdom as you would the Buddha himself. How then could you not receive rewards? If one wishes for happiness in one's future existence, one should renounce one's desires for fame and fortune and respect the monks who teach the Lotus Sutra as one would a living thus come one, no matter how humble that monk's station. Thus it is written in the sutra. Where are we time-wise? Okay. I was hoping we might get through that. Well, we're almost done. Should we go on? Let's see if we can finish this one instead of another part. The Zen school today generally violates the 5 constant virtues of benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and good resolute mind. To honor the wise and virtuous, to respect the elderly, and to protect the young are recognized universally as humane conduct in both Buddhist and non-Buddhist scriptures, right? But the Zen priests, or the Zen monks, were until yesterday or the day before no more than uneducated rabble, unable to distinguish black from white. Pretty harsh indictment. But now that they have donned monk robes, they have become so conceited that they belittle the learned and virtuous monks of the Tendai and True Word schools. They observe none other of the proper manners and think their rank higher than all the others. These people are so insolent that even animals are better behaved. The great teacher Dengyo states that the otter shows its respect by offering up the fish it has caught. The crow in the forest carries food to its parents and grandparents. The dove takes care to perch 3 branches lower than its father. Wild geese keep perfect formation when they fly together. We've seen that. The lambs kneel to drink their mother's milk. He asks, if lowly animals conduct themselves with such propriety, how can human beings be so lacking in courtesy? Judging from the words of Dengyo, it is only natural that the Zen priests should be confused about Buddhism when they are ignorant even of how people should behave. They are acting like papillas, the heavenly devil, the lower world tendencies. Understand clearly what I have taught you here, and continue your practice without negligence, reverently believing in the single sutra consisting of the 8 volumes and 28 chapters, the Lotus Sutra. When you long to see me, meditate to the sun every day, and once a day my image will be reflected there. Have the priest or the monk who is my messenger read this letter to you. Trust him as a teacher with enlightened wisdom. So this is Nico he's talking about. And ask him any question you might have about the doctrines. If you do not question and resolve your doubts, you cannot dispel the dark clouds of illusion, and any more than you would or could travel 1,000 miles without legs. Have him read this letter again and again and listen attentively. In anticipation of speaking with you at our next meeting, I will conclude here. So, wow, that added a whole nother dimension to this letter. This was a letter meant to be read to him by Nico, one of the inner circle, right? The head monks studying and teaching under Nichiren. Nico, one of the 6 inner circle of monks in Nichiren's circle. And this was, I think, written in 1280, so this is later in Nichiren's life, after he retired to Minobu. So he's concerned about this. Remember, Nichiren's main thrust in his life was to convert the elite, the ruling class. Because in an authoritarian state, if you start from the bottom, you'll never get to the top. Or it's very unlikely, because it's very, very hard to convert people's thinking from a subservient level of thinking. So he's converted many people, but when he converts the ruling class, then the rest of Japan, people who may not even know of him, will then begin to practice Buddhism correctly, because that will be the order of the day, right? They will do what they're told. So this is an official in the shogunate government in Kamakura. So it's very important that he understand that there's no wishy-washiness here. This isn't just another flavor. This is the correct teaching. You must know this day in and day out. You must know this in your own mind. Not just learning it as a scholarship, a scholarly kind of, or an academic, I should say, not just as an academic piece of knowledge that you can use in argumentation with your buddies, but in actual contradiction, really, in what you're hearing all around you and those influences. So yeah, be cautious, be smart, but don't let that affect or influence your conviction, your resolve. And I am sending you a preeminent monk of my own school, my own circle, in my stead. And I will see you when I can, but in the meantime, here's your personal tutor. And just to be sure that you don't read what I've written here incorrectly, have him read it to you. So it's almost as though you're hearing me teach you. And listen to what it means, what I'm saying. So this is quite a letter. It's a tutorial from Nichiren. It's pretty amazing. And what an amazing thing for us to have this document, however translated, to get this meaning from Nichiren. But we live in a defiled age, right? So we don't have a lot of teachers coming to our house and sitting and working with us. That's why this Sangha is so important, so we can share this knowledge with one another and practice with one mind. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. So I'll wrap this one up. Thank you so much for my patrons. You guys are incredible, awesome. For those of you who independently support, thank you so much. We all thank you. And for those of you, maybe all you can do is watch these and study. You're amazing. I'm so proud of you guys. Keep it up. And let me know what's going on with you in the comments. What you may have just broken through some karma. Let us know. Or if something you have doubt about that I haven't spoken about. Don't forget, on this channel, there's lots of videos here, lots of information, not just on the Go Show. All is Buddhism. You can use that little magnifying glass in the middle or the top third of the page where the about and videos and playlists is. Look at the playlists. But if there's a particular term, like Myoho Renge Kyo, you can put it in the search, and all the videos that have information on that or have that word in the title will show up. So you can navigate all these videos without having to go through each one. Okay? Take care of yourselves. Watch your health. Be kind. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now. Hey, thank you for being here. Did you know there's a third way you can help support this channel? And it won't cost you a cent. Yep. If you are not able to be a patron on Patreon or use the PayPal me at .com at Sifu Sylvain because you don't have the financial fortune to help support this channel right now, you, as I say, always support this channel by watching, but you can also help us grow so that maybe one day we can get over 10,000 subscribers and YouTube will grace us with monetization. It's not a lot, but if you can make sure you're subscribed and share a video like a simple one, just go into the search criteria and type monk and you'll have a video that'll come up that's been up for years about what is a monk. You know, it's called monk, who, how, where, something like that. That might be a great introduction to somebody who doesn't understand what a monk is to begin with. It's a tool. Use this channel as a tool to help you with your bodhisattva practice, and share a video to somebody who you think, oh, I know somebody who'll benefit from watching this. And in that way, you can help us grow. And that's a really good way to help your practice along as well. So just wanted to drop that in on you in case that's something that you might find useful. Take care of yourself again, and I'll see you soon. Bye.